So today we're going to be taking a deep look into Jeffrey Epstein's soul. So buckle up. But first, to do the full spiritual analysis, we're going to have to go through his psychology, the mind. Then we go into the astrology, which is like the karmic energy and the soul path that he was meant to take in the incarnation that he lived. And the alchemic process, the transformation process that would have helped him avoid being one of the most evil men in history and an absolute deviant entity on this planet. So let's start off. Psychology. Machiavellian. The man understood power. He understood how to put himself in positions of authority, how to wheel and deal. Part of the reason why he was so prominent is that he was laundering money for rich people. Everyone is kind of confused, like, how is he getting all this money? It's like, well, he was an agent of the Mossad of Israel. He was laundering money for rich billionaires, some from Israel and of that religion. And he just knew how to be a person who could get connections. He was the middleman. If you needed money hidden, if you needed funding, if you needed to meet another powerful person who also liked to do heinous shit, Epstein was your guy. He knew how to play the game. He could have written his own 48 Laws of Power. He could have written his own Prince by Machiavelli, and would have been able to express how to take control, how to be in positions of power, how to manipulate, coerce, and dominate, and do whatever you like. Pretty simple. Sexual deviant. Do I need to really go into that? And I'll actually explain where it came from and why he was a sexual deviant in the astrology part. He also was evil. You can't really see evil in a chart. You can't really see evil in any kind of esoteric methods, aside from the fact that you just look at somebody's eyes and you see their actions and you see what they do, and you can just tell that they have an energy. Because nothing's set in stone. Your astrology doesn't determine who you are, your, whatever, life path, or your human design, these kind of more occult, esoteric ways of analyzing a human being, even your Myers-Briggs or Enneagram. Like, these are not going to tell you your gene code. These are all not going to tell you if somebody's a bad person truly or an evil person. You might have a higher propensity towards negative actions, but true evil, that's something that transcends something like your chart. Same thing with true spiritual enlightenment and goodness. It's going to be difficult to see on a limited chart, which is really just your karma, based off of the blueprint that your soul most likely determined for you in this incarnation, but you can always transcend that through spiritual practices and spiritual evolution. Now, speaking of spiritual evolution, let's go to the chart. So for his spiritual path, and disregard the houses because we don't know what time he was born, so don't look at these numbers, they're not relevant. Just look at the signs and the planets in them. This is Mars, this is Venus, Mercury, Sun, North or South Node, North Node, Saturn, and Moon. Hopefully that's pretty obvious. So first off, what you see is he has a Ketu, Rahu, in Leo and Aquarius. When you have Ketu in Leo, like The Weeknd or Musk, two people I've already made videos on, if you want to check it out on my page. When you have Ketu in Leo, that means you are most karmically, your South Node, karmically comfortable in Leo as the dominant male line, because that's what Leo is, the head of the pride. So you want to be the center of attention, the king, and you want to build your kingdom. Jeffrey Epstein, he wanted to be in positions of power and authority. That's where he felt comfortable. Aquarius is a humanitarian sign. It's the sign of our peers and groups and finding the commonality in our humanness. It's also being aware of our psychological flaws and emptiness. Since he was very karmically developed in Leo and very karmically underdeveloped Aquarius, he was not somebody who wanted to look at his own emptiness. He didn't want to look at his psychological flaws. And with the sun, when you have sun and Rahu together, the sun is your identity, your self-esteem, your confidence, can also be your ego. Rahu inflates things artificially. Donald Trump has a Rahu Sun conjunction, if that gives you any indication. He is a perfect example of what a Rahu and Sun person does in their life, which is an inflated, illusory, because Rahu also creates an illusion. It's an illusory, masculine, powerful image. It's a persona. So Rahu Sun conjunction creates this inflated ego, especially in men, because the sun represents the masculine, authority, power, leadership. Rahu artificially inflates things, creates illusions. It's kind of like a balloon. It expands things, but the inside is empty. All size, all surface, no substance. That is Epstein, similar to Trump, right? It's why they'll make promises or they'll say they'll do things, and then you look a little bit deeper, you spend more time with them, and you realize they're full of shit. Epstein was the same way. That shouldn't be a surprise. He probably made promises he couldn't keep. He presented a certain persona to people around the world. He had that smile. He wanted to seem like a normal guy, friendly guy, sociable, well-connected, powerful, rich, successful. Behind closed doors, he was doing the most evil thing you can do on this planet. So needless to say, he did not succeed in his path. He stayed in Leo. He wanted to be the king. This is why he took advantage of those weaker than him and placed himself around as many powerful people as possible and wanted to be the epicenter, the medium between all of these different billionaires and millionaires who are willing to do dark shit. Also, what's interesting, and this is something that can be misunderstood in astrology, because if you know anything about astrology, this isn't your first rodeo hearing about a chart, you hear the term exaltation and you think that's good. An exalted planet is good. And it is. But you have to look at the entire chart. Why do I say this? Strap in. So he's got Venus in Pisces. This is Venus and this is Mars. And Mars. Mars is our lust, our passion, our hunger, our desire, our will, our strength, and our anger. Venus is our love, compassion, but also can be, sexuality, sensuality, connection in like romantic senses. It also represents women, Venus. Venus is exalted in Pisces. So you would think he would be this open, loving, unconditional loving human being. And actually he had a lot of probably love in him, but it was distorted and twisted because of that Rahu Sun, because of that, placement in Aquarius, where it's already starved by Saturn. Sun doesn't like being in Saturn signs because they're enemies. So the sun is starved in Aquarius with Rahu. And then you have Venus and Mars, where he compensates for that insecurity, that inflated ego, the false self-esteem and the persona that he presents to the world. He compensates with his exalted Venus through sex and with Mars, right? So it's like this super intense, hungry, lustful individual. Now, there are people with this similar planetary configuration that doesn't do the things that he does. That's what I was saying before. It's difficult to see true evil in a chart. It's just his own thing. It's something higher. It's a different energy completely. Unless he signed a deal with a negative entity. He made a soul contract. Who's to know? We don't know. He might have done that to gain power and success. He wanted it. He was so hungry. He had so much desire for that romantic connection, for women, to satiate his hunger. He was willing to do anything to sell his soul. But I digress. We can't know for sure. But other than that, relatively, standard chart, Moon in Aries. So he's going to be individualistic, want to pioneer forward, going to be rough around the edges when you have Moon, a softer planet in Aries. But all in all, it really is that simple, is that he failed in his mission to become relating to other people, to letting go of his ego and humbling himself. It just wasn't in the cards. So before Epstein became Epstein, what would I have recommended to him? Well, hearing about maybe, hopefully, at that time, he wouldn't have been owning an island and doing all the crazy stuff. Brahmacharya, obviously. You can channel that Venus, exalted Venus, in a healthy way or an unhealthy way. Jeffrey Epstein is the quintessential representation of doing it the wrong way. He did it the unhealthy way, by harming others and serving himself. The healthier way would have generating and channeling, transmuting that sexual energy, that desire, that hunger for the expansive love that he was seeking through heinous actions in the material world. But instead of doing that in the material world, seeking that in the spiritual world, because you will never be satiated on the material plane. There will always be more. There will always be more hunger. You don't need an exalted Venus to realize that there is an itch you just cannot scratch on this physical plane. So if he had dedicated himself to spiritual practices, penances, meditation, become a monk beforehand, he might have been able to channel all of that intense energy towards something beautiful and transcendent. But obviously he didn't. So becoming a brahmacharya and a monk would have been a strong recommendation. Honestly, fuck everything else. That enough would have been enough. Put him in an ashram in India or a Buddhist temple. No women. No for you, Epstein. But let's say that I found him in his jail cell. Burn bad karma. It is what it is. You did the deeds. So face the music. You're going to pay it off in many incarnations, but you might as well start consciously now. There are ways to do that through inner work, certain yoga techniques as well, and just penances. But, not even just yoga, like physical yoga, but also, Kriya yoga and, I totally forgot, karma yoga, literally called karma yoga, of taking actions, making amends. Again, he's not going to be able to burn off that karma by the time he went to jail, even if he didn't get murdered. But I digress. Finally, transform inner demons. He has a lot of inner demons. He has some dark stuff. My guess, it's not showing up crazy on his chart. So my just general hypothesis is that he had a lot of desire. He really wanted power. He really wanted success. He really wanted to excel and be above other people and be the king so bad that he was willing to unconsciously or consciously make a soul contract with a very negative entity. That is my hypothesis. He had pure evil channeling through him because he allowed himself to become a vessel for that evil entity to take part. I mean, working for the Mossad in Israel is close enough. So, transform the inner demons the best he can because they're going to follow him to the next incarnation until they get exorcised or transformed. And he didn't have the time. He didn't have the opportunity. Who knows, who's to say where he is now, but he's going to have a lot of lifetimes of paying off that karmic debt because the universe is a balancing machine. You need balance. So what comes up must come down. He's going to face the piper at some point. Thank you for your time. If you appreciated the video, like and subscribe. Love to hear your thoughts as well. I always like talking to you guys in the comments. So let me know what you think. Appreciate your time. Thank you.